Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Franchise Show. This is the show, and I'm going to do it where we get under the hat of all things franchising. And it's a live show. Well, it's live if it's 5:15 in the UK, 12:15 in bits of America. And look, because it's live, we love you to get involved. So say hello, pop in a comment. If you are here live, just say hello and get involved in our conversations because we love you to get involved. You are the producers and the directors of this show, and the direction our conversation goes is up to you. I always say, but this is what I write down beforehand. That's my prep. It's impressive, isn't it? And the reason being is because this is a natural conversation, not just between the three of us on the screen here, but between a community. So please get involved. Please say hello and get involved in our conversation today. So what do we do on the Franchise Show each week? We take a new topic and a lovely guest. Today, two lovely guests. But before I introduce you to them, let me tell you what we're going to be talking about today. So today we are going to be telling a founder's story. And today the story is about Timber Pizza Company. And it's a fascinating story. And to tell that story, we have the lovely Chris Brady from Timber Pizza Company. Chris, welcome to the Franchise Show.
Thanks so much, Harvey. Great to be here. Great to connect with my buddy Joe C on the Franchise Show as well. I'm excited for what we get into over the next 45 or so.
Absolutely. And you did my job for me there a little bit and introduced the lovely Joe C. I'm going to call you Joe C now as well. But it is, of course, our fantastic friend and supporter of the show, Joe Caruso. Joe, welcome back for probably about the fifth time to the Franchise Show.
You know, Harvey, it seems like a lot more, but I appreciate being here. This is always a lot of fun.
Amazing. Well, look, it's fantastic to have you both with us. Before we get into things today, let's have a little introduction. Before we get too deep into your story, Joe, just give us a brief introduction to who you are, and then we're going to introduce Joe. Then we're going to get into what your story is all about. So let's go for Chris first. If you could give us a little introduction.
Absolutely. Chris Brady, co-founder of Timber Pizza Company. We've been in business for 12 years now. We opened our first brick and mortar store 10 years ago in Washington, D.C. The origin of Timber Pizza is from a 1967 baby blue Chevy. Two guys leaving the corporate world selling pizza, originally for fun, eventually for a living. Luckily, it went a little bit beyond beer money in the early days. But, for us, we've been in franchising now for 5 years and are about to open our 10th store. So we have 5 mobile wood-fired ovens, similar to how we started the business in the early kind of cowboy days, not too different than Harvey's hat. And, now we're a real franchise emerging brand, marching through the Mid-Atlantic and the Southeast, continuing to bring timber to great communities via great connections and great people. So happy to be here and tell some more folks that maybe haven't heard of us yet, or folks that have their eye on us, if you will.
Fantastic. What a lovely introduction. And thank you so much for being here, Chris. Same goes to you, of course, Joe. Now, look, everyone knows Joe. Joe is here each week. He tries to get me to pronounce where he lives. I might get away with it today. I always get it wrong. I could Google it, but I never like to. I always like to judge by my score that it gives me as to whether I'm doing well or not. And then it continues along. But Joe, look, it's lovely to have you here. Most people know you, but give us a little introduction to yourself, to Franchise Info, and of course, how you've got to know the fantastic Chris.
Okay, great to be here. Glad to do it. I am Joe Caruso. I am on the beautiful shores of Havre de Grace, Maryland, at the Susquehanna River and the Chesapeake Bay, and I have spared Harvey the duty of saying it today. I've been in franchising for 3 decades, and I started my career at Hardee's and Carl's Jr. I handled all of the domestic franchising there. I had gone on to Mrs. Field's Famous Brands, Dietrich Coffee, Gloria Jean's Coffee. I was in charge of Gloria Jean's international development all around the world. Dietrich Coffee in the United States. I've done childcare with being the Chief Development Officer of Kitty Academy. And now with my two partners, Ned Lyerly, the former CEO of Hardee's and Carl's Jr., and Mike Webster, former franchise attorney in Toronto. Ned is in Nashville. We work with franchisors domestically. We work with franchisors from outside the United States on their strategies to come to the United States. And again, great to be here. And I had the joy of going to an in-market event last Thursday at a timber pizza company, and I got to try every pizza on the menu.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. I mean, I know, Joe, you are a fan of a good pizza. Everyone who knows Joe knows he loves a good pizza. Yeah, absolutely. I can almost taste it when I look at the pictures, Chris. So amazing. But look, before we get too deep into this fantastic story, and thank you both for that wonderful introduction, let's welcome a few people who have joined us already live here today. So we first of all got the fantastic Simon Wise. Simon is a regular to the show, a great contributor and somebody who helps our franchise businesses here in the UK with their wonderful franchise people. And he's put, hello, franchise friends. We have got Mara Licafrigo from Italy, and she's put, hi all, great guys. Excellent. Great to have you with us, of course, Mara. And she was a very early guest on this, about the 4th or 5th guest, I think. We've got Goran with us. Great to have you with us. Hello from Toronto. Good to have you with us all the way from Canada. We have got Omar with us. Omar has a fantastic LinkedIn Live called Zoom Party. It's a quiz show. I've been on it. It's absolutely mad, but it was great fun. And it's great to have you with us. He's put good morning, good evening. We have a LinkedIn user here, Howdy from Dallas. Should I try my American accent? Probably not. It'd be great to find out who that is. Let us know who you are, but it's of course wonderful to have you with us as we hear about the story today of Timber Pizza. We've got the lovely Penny Hopkinson with us. Always fantastic to have Penny with us. Penny has put hello from sunny Midlands. Great to be back on a Tuesday watching the show. Penny is a very early supporter of the show, and she's got a fantastic book, and I bought that book, and I always like to show it, but I don't always get it the right way round. Let's see if I have today. No, I don't think it is. It's reversed. Anyway, if you want to get your ops manuals the right way round, then you need to talk to Penny, because she's an ops manuals specialist, and it's always lovely to have you with us, Penny. Thanks for being here. We've got 3 more people to welcome before we start to get in today's story. We've got the lovely Carl Dakin coming in from Denver. Always fantastic to have you with us, Carl. Done a few LinkedIn lives with Carl. He is a funding expert. So all franchisors and franchisees need their funding. So always reach out to the lovely Carl. We've got Danny Wareham. Danny Wareham has been a guest on this 2 or 3 times, and often at Christmas time. There's a lovely selection of Christmas jumpers. And he's put, hey, from the Shed Quarters. Very good. Shed Quarters in Stoke-on-Trent, UK. Danny is a people and culture expert, and it's always great to have him on the show. And we've got Dean LeBay. Always fantastic to have Dean with us from New Orleans. So welcome everyone to the Franchise Show. So before we take any more questions, let's get into this. So let's hear the story. This is what it's all about today. So Chris, I'm going to take you back in time. I'm a big fan of the time machine and Back to the Future. So I love a bit of time travel. Let's go back to the beginning and tell us the story of Timber Pizza.
Absolutely. So, for us, we'll take it back even just a little bit before, Timber launched and kind of the origins of the brand and the company. And it was, really started with 2 guys working in tech sales at startup in Washington, D.C. That really quickly realized that they didn't want to do that for the long haul. So my buddy Andrew, Dana, and I, who I met in 2012, we were working in Georgetown, D.C. at an education startup called EverFi. Great company, great people to work for. We just weren't super interested in selling education software until we were, gray in the face, and some of the grays have obviously crept in through the franchising and pizza. But we, hey, we're getting there, man. No silver fox yet, but so Andrew and I we were dreamers, and we were, not kind of the comply and go punch the time clock types. We had ideas, we had dreams. We wanted to figure out, how we could do something fun, do something enjoyable, and bring, a product and experience to the masses. So fast forward, into 2014, I was one job removed from the place where Andrew and I met, working in sales in the wedding industry. And I came across a caterer that was doing the mobile wood-fired thing, the bit, if you will. I whispered into my headset after pitching this guy, also named Chris, and I go, man, this sounds really cool. Like, can I learn more? What's the deal here? He opened up, told me how he started, told me how things were running numbers wise, and really kind of provided an open door. It was like, hey, come down to Charlottesville, check it out. Love to show you guys, what we have going on. I get off the phone, I call Andrew, and I go, if you heard of this mobile wood-fired pizza situation? He was like, yeah, I've seen it. The guys at Roberta's were doing it when I was in Brooklyn, getting my MBA from Fordham. I was like, this is what we should do, right? He was like, absolutely. That was January 2014. We bought a 67 Chevy, paid for a pizza oven, signed a lease on a commercial kitchen, and we're selling pizza 4 months later on the streets of DC at farmers markets. So it was, let's figure this out. Let's come up. We were blessed to have a strong designer to help us build our logo sitting over my shoulder. And that was kind of the ethos of the Timber Pizza brand. Two guys that didn't want to work in the corporate world and wanted to go out and sell pizza and provide, a great product and a great time and experience for folks. So, that was 2014. It was as cavalier as it gets. We were riding that 67 Chevy around with a little mobile wood-fired pizza oven, playing our hip hop, playing our R&B, just kind of living free and going for it. I, left my job, signed a lease for an apartment, and started selling pizza for a living, all within the span of 72 hours. So it was a go for it. Which at 25 years old, pre-wife, pre-kids, pre-mortgage, had the ability to kind of say, hey, what's the worst that could happen? I go get another job. And that was really the kickoff of the whole thing.
What a story. What a story. And I love that. And you're right. At that age, at that point in life, you can be a little bit more risky with your decisions, can't you? And do these things, right? But often you reflect back as a 50 or 60-year-old thinking, I could have done that at 20, knowing your life. But it's not so often that people realize at that age that they are in that position of relative freedom and relative low risk in terms of, affecting other people. So you had a lot of foresight there. A really interesting story.
Yeah, it was, it was a weighing the risk and reward. And if I sat there at 25, did I fast forward to where we are now and being in franchising, kind of, building a larger company? I couldn't have seen that at that age. But, for us, it was like, put our heads down, try really hard to make great pizza, don't be afraid to make mistakes, just correct them and be a good steward of hospitality, if you will. And, trying to provide people with a great experience goes well beyond just serving a great product. So we always just tried to have that good attitude from day one and, try to.
Yeah, it's really come across. I mean, a few of the things that I noted there is making things fun and enjoyable. And you were talking about the music and the 67 Chevy, and you build a picture there. And I think sometimes when we're in franchising, it's about building that picture for a franchisee who's looking to invest and to try and recreate some of that. We're talking today about a founder story, about an origin story. And that origin story is really important for a franchisee, isn't it, when they're looking to invest?
Most definitely. Yeah, absolutely. You're buying into, more than a brand and more than, a product that you're going to bring to the community. It's really,
100%.
who you believe in and, kind of that passion that we have had since day one that needs to, flow. And we need to feel that from our franchisees too, because if you're not coming into this with that same passion and kind of fervor to do whatever it takes to make your timber pizza great, then it's probably not a great.
It's that same attitude, isn't it? We're going to bring the lovely Joe in, but before we do that, I want to put him where he belongs at the top, and I'll go down where I belong at the bottom. Joe, you obviously know this story. You're a huge fan of great pizza. Something that Chris just said. He said it's about great pizza. Yeah, what was it that attracted you to this story, to this brand? What was the passion you felt at the beginning?
Well, it goes back a couple of years. My partner, Ned Lyerly, who is on the International Franchise Association board, met Chris along with Luke Watson, who's the CEO now of Timber, at a franchising event. I'm not sure which one it was, but he met him at his franchising event, and Luke invited Ned to check out Timber Pizza Company, and they have one in the Reagan Airport in DC, and he had a chance to go and visit that location and check out the pizza, and he introduced me to Luke, and Luke introduced me to Chris, and we've been talking for quite a while. And I don't live very far from where they operate. I live an hour away, and they're on the water in Annapolis, and I'm on the water in Havre de Grace. So it wasn't a reach to go down and visit with them, but we've been talking for a very long time, talking a lot about pizza, the nuts and bolts of operations, the nuts and bolts of franchise recruitment and expansion. And now I've actually had the product, and I'm very, very impressed with it. I say they have great crumb structure, and they have brilliant wood-fired ovens that are cool because they're rotating. And so in terms of managing quality, that rotating feature and with one revolution, it fully cooks a pizza, friggin' brilliant. It's really well done.
Amazing. That's really good to understand, especially you. As I know you're passionate about franchising, but I also know you're passionate about pizza. So I love the connection here. I love the connection. It feels really natural and organic. Before we get further into this, and I want to talk to you, Chris, about why franchising is important to you as an individual and why you chose that. But before we get into that, let's make sure that we've welcomed everyone that has joined us. We've got Ellis with us. He's put, hello, hospitality buddies. Great to have you with us. Ellis, we've got Lisa Feverick with us. Lisa is here each week. She does fantastic dietary advice for people that are going through the menopause. We've got Charles Caldwell with us. Charles is dialing in all the way from Hong Kong, and it's about 1 a.m. for him. So Charles, it's always fantastic to have you with us. Absolute pleasure for you to be here, and thanks so much for joining us. We've got a great question coming up from Simon Wise about younger franchisees, and we're going to bring that up in a minute. But before we get to that, I think I'd just like to sort of start with talking to Chris as to why, when you, back in 2014, this origin story, where did franchising come into your head, and why was that sort of the scaling model of choice?
Yeah, perfect question. For us, franchising really came into play in the 2020, 2021 post-COVID era, where we were, at a little bit of a crossroads, and we had done well, as a mom and pop brand, if you will, and we're, interested in, seeing what else was out there and what, the next level would look like for us. And then, for us, via how a lot of great business relationships and kind of trajectories of companies take place, some key introductions to the folks that Luke, you mentioned, my business partner that runs the business with me on an everyday basis, Fred Freed, our other partner who him and Luke came to us with the intention of, hey, we were interested in investing in this company. We see great things. We see that heart and soul of how you started. The product's amazing. We'd be interested in, coming in and partnering together and taking, timber from a small little neighborhood in DC to neighborhoods, all up and down the East Coast and eventually, hopefully for us nationwide. So it was really one of those kind of natural, we were looking for, more hands and dollars to, take timber to the next level. And there were some folks that we were, lucky enough to be introduced to that, had those similar intentions and, really a match that was perfect at the time. And it's been excellent, for the 5 years we've been at this franchising journey. For me, at that point we were 7 years in, and I took the time and kind of that, 4 to 6 months of negotiations and back and forth to really reflect and think about what I wanted the next 7 years to look like. I think, and it kind of ties into Simon's question where you're talking about, what type of entrepreneurs are you looking for? And are you looking for younger? Are you looking for, more experienced or seasoned business people? For us, we're extremely open-minded. It starts with character, an intention for us and why, for me, it's all about the why and the how. It's why would you want to do a timber pizza company? How would you figure to structure your business? Are you looking to be owner operator? Are you looking to, hire an operating partner or a GM? And, of course, how are you going to fund it? And what's the plan for expansion, right? So really diving into that. I think for franchising as a whole and why franchising's been a great fit for our brand and a great fit that I'm passionate to wake up every day and help grow timber via franchising is that it provides that avenue for entrepreneurship similar to, the one that we paved for ourselves when we were young and too naive to know any better, right? We've been able to now welcome into, our ecosystem 3 owner operators that are younger than myself, all were timber corporate employees and are now, part of ownership groups in their own respective timber pizza franchise groups, which is just amazing. So for me, like the thing that I'm most passionate about is that path to entrepreneurship and being able to provide similar opportunities to business ownership and franchise ownership that we, created long ago for ourselves. It's really what drives me the most.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's really important to get young people into it, but it's important for it to be right for you and right for the people involved. Look, we've had a question coming in from a young man called Joe Caruso. He's been busy typing away. I like that. I'm going to put Joe's question up anyway, even though he's right there, because it's a good question and he helps me out. He helps me out every week. Joe's put, Chris, what do you say of all the aspects of Timber Pizza Company? What makes the franchise concept most compelling to franchise operators? It's a good question, Joe.
Absolutely. For us, two of the most the biggest draws, in my opinion, are a little bit of flexibility and kind of what we call the 85-15 model that we've adopted, where we want 85% of your timber to act, function, and look like every single timber pizza you walk into. The counter service and limited service options of the style, the bar being the full service model and, kind of that look, feel, and appeal, if you will, of timber. But that 15% has been very attractive to franchisees, which is your ability to curate your own local beverage draft program, your ability to, put your own local flair in terms of decor on the walls and really, craft your local timber pizza to suit your audience and what is going to be most successful in your market. So that's a huge draw. And then I think for us, beyond that, just knowing, the real kind of, we have a flexibility and a quality of life at Timber that's really hard to come by in the restaurant industry, especially. Most of our locations are only open for dinner, give or take 4 to 9 during the week and 4 to 10 or to 10 o'clock on the weekends with lunch service on the weekends. So, quality of life for franchisees is extremely important to us. That was one of the pillars of why we started Timber, is that we sought that quality of life for ourselves and wanted that flexibility to, work hard, earn a good living and have fun. We want the same for our franchisees. So we're not, setting up our franchise system to be 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. You're working 90 hours a week. We've all come across or experienced different restaurants that are that true heavy grind. Not that this is easy, and not that it's not a country club, write a check, easy franchise. Like, we want people that are involved, hands-on from a business and or operations perspective. But quality of life, I think, and having the ability to put your own local flair on that are two of our pillars of what make us most attractive.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I'm going to pick up on a couple of things that you've said there, because they really interest me, actually. First of all, I don't think I've ever heard any franchisor talk about, in a percentage way, the percentage that's got to be tight and on brand, and this is how it has to be done. But this is a percentage that you can be freer with, that you can add your own flair to. And it's the first time I've ever heard it. And I think it's really, really interesting to look at it that way, because most franchisors don't really state. There's an unsaid thing that 100%'s got to be on brand, and they just try and get there, right, and fail in different ways, right? But if you let a franchisee, they know what areas and what elements they do have freedom with, and what areas that they don't, and the reason they don't. Because look, franchisees buy into a franchise brand because they're buying into a brand, because they're buying a model. But to know that there's some freedom, and to know where there's the freedom, I think it's a really important topic almost here, actually. And I love that. I also love the fact, I studied and trained to be a chef years ago, a long time ago. And of course, I know from firsthand experience that it's long hours, it's split shifts, it's start early, finish late, weekends. And that's why chefs normally are only friends with other chefs, because no one else understands that world. But it can be really tough. It can be tough mentally and physically. And I think it's really important that especially for owner operators here, we can talk about multi-site, and we might talk about that in a minute, but we can also talk about owner operators that are going to be within that business. Really important thing to address.
Absolutely.
We've got another good question coming up from Joe. He's got some good questions. But before we get on to that, I want to bring Joe into this, because he can't just be typing away. He's got to be talking as well. One of the things that Chris mentioned there is the heart and soul. And I can already feel how this brand evolved, that origin story. How did you help Chris kind of take that heart and soul of that business and put it into a framework that would allow that to be expanded without losing that soul?
Well, I think the framing is very good, the 85-15. As long, great franchises, great franchise systems, great franchise concepts, it's all about compliance, standards, requirements. Now, that sounds very top down. It's not. It's everybody on the same page of what the expectations are. And the expectations are going to include, what do your guests feel when they come to Timber Pizza? What's their experience? How do you ensure that that's going to be the same at all of the Timber Pizzas? But the element of the 15% are the things that can be localized and within the box, within the constraints that meet the standards and actually make things better. I think that is very manageable. Not easy. None of it's easy. Even if it's not 85-15 and it's 100%, you do it our way or the highway. In either case, the franchisor has to guide it and the franchisee has to execute it. If you think about the dynamic of the franchisor-franchisee relationship, it's one of interdependence. And the franchisor is the leader. They establish the brand, they establish the standards, and in the local market, those franchisees execute the brand and deliver it to the guests, to the consumers, and they are the local expert. And franchisors would do well in respecting the local expertise of their franchisees and elevating that, and you'll get better cooperation. And once you see that the interdependence actually is a benefit and help you grow your brand.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I think to get that local expertise, and Chris, you mentioned there that some of that 15% is to do with that regional local expertise, and that's really important. I think if you're to categorize as a franchisor what elements are going to be in your 15%, what elements are going to be flexible, tell your franchisees this, and make it that it's to do with their specialities. So I love that. Before we move on to the next question, one of the things I wanted to talk about, because I always think that this is a good way of any franchisor answering this question, and particularly people who are watching that are interested in Timber Pizza. But I wanted to know what a day in the life of a franchisee looks like. I think it's quite important to visualize it. You've given me a really strong vision of the business. I pictured the old American truck, and I pictured these things. And I used to say when I worked for a coffee franchise, how do you see? Tell me what you saw your coffee shop looking like. Describe it in every detail. And some people just went absolutely vivid with that. But how would you describe that that day in the life of a franchisee?
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. And, for us, in the same way that, not everybody is approaching it from the same way in terms of owner operator or, running the business side of things, that can certainly vary. For folks that are, kind of in my position, which is interesting as well, because I candidly am also a franchisee and I'm building a smaller, franchise group underneath the overall Timber umbrella. With my local stores in Annapolis and Edgewater, Maryland. For me, having an operating partner, and for me, having excellent staff and GMs and seasoned timber people that are involved, the day in the life, of a franchisee that's more in kind of the cockpit on the business side, if you will, really involves, accountability and making sure that, my guys, the operating partner, who we're working together to build something special with. And, he's been with Timber a long time. Shout out to my guy, Aaron Tompkins. I know Joe had a long, great conversation with Aaron, a fellow upstate New York guy, last week at Timber, checking in with him on the financials, checking in with him and Amir, our GM that runs the show in Annapolis, on, how things are looking with the staff. For us, we have one very dedicated 75-minute meeting a week. It's an EOS style meeting where we are going through customer, employee, restaurant issues, maintenance issues, rolling through our checklist of to-dos that are supposed to happen within the week or within, 2 to 3 week time period, and then bringing up issues in the business. So we really, run our Timbers, like many folks might run a, multi-state, multi-office style organization. And, while we're doing that with 2 restaurants, the intent is to have the infrastructure there to be able to scale it to, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Beyond that, keeping a pulse on the marketing and really driving that side of the house. That's something that I'm passionate about. And, probably one of my top 5 things that I'm actually good at, of which there are very few. And then, being there. I have an office above Timber where I'm there, 4 days a week, typically, being there during parts of the service, greeting customers, saying hello to people, seeing regulars, and, people that want it and that want to be involved in the community and, be around their shop, if not there all the time, physically selling the pizza. Those are the types of folks we're looking for, because nothing can replace that personal touch from a franchisee and someone that cares. Especially if they're, the right person that we've chosen to partner with, that has those deep community relationships and, really values and respects, the people that are spending their hard-earned money within their 4 walls. That's really what hospitality is all about, in my opinion.
Oh, I completely agree. And it's great to build that picture of what that day, looks like. I think it's really important. for prospective franchisees looking at this. Look, one thing I wanted to pick up on, and before we get too much further into this, if you have just joined us today, this is the Franchise Show, and today we are hearing the story of the Timber Pizza Company with the lovely Chris Brady and the fantastic Joe Caruso. If you're here, please pop in a comment, say hello, get involved in this conversation, but I expect you're all ears at the moment and listening to this fantastic story. And it's a great one, and I've really enjoyed it so far. Before we bring up Joe's question, you're saying some fantastic things, and I'm picking up a lot of these things. But you mentioned community there. You mentioned being there. And I think that this is a really interesting part of your story to tell, because again, it was clear to me that those elements are important. Tell me how you're trying to integrate with communities, with the brand, because I think it's so important when you're looking at all of the different options as a prospective franchisee, and you're looking at somebody that's genuinely trying to integrate with a community. You know, what sort of things do you do, and how do you connect with a local community? And I am going to let Joe talk in a minute, but
yeah, no, it's amazing timing as you know, something that we're really passionate about and that we really feel has an impact, and for a lot of reasons, including I'm married to a teacher, my mom's a teacher, my mother-in-law is a longtime teacher. Like, giving back and helping impact education and schools on the local level is something that we've always been, you know, super passionate about. So this month live, you know, as of 3 days ago, we're doing a back to school supplies drive system wide across our entire organization. Every brick and mortar timber location has a back to school supplies box, is partnered with a local organization. When you bring in supplies to a Timber Pizza, you get a raffle card to win a custom timber lunchbox that's pretty daggone cool. It's like one of those kind of old school 80s, 90s lunchboxes that
I want one of those.
We'll see what we can do, man. Shipping across the pond might get us, but
maybe when I come over, I'll come to one of your restaurants.
I'll take care of you. I'll trade you a hat. I'll trade you a hat for a lunchbox. How's that? But yeah, our back to school campaign is a perfect example of, you know, an initiative that's fun. You know, drives interest in folks to come into a timber, but also do something fun to give back to their community. And kind of the large piece of the campaign is supporting teachers in the local community. Every location is going to be auctioning off, you know, for the teachers that come in during the campaign. We're also giving them free ice cream, by the way, which is a fun little
ice cream. How much better can it get?
Teachers get ice cream on the house all throughout August. Visit your local timber. If you're a teacher, just show your badge and enjoy a scoop on us. But even better, we're helping teachers do their classroom. So an Amazon gift card for several $100s to, you know, get the school supplies and the decorations you want to do your classroom. It always grinded my gears, you know, with my wife having to come out of her paycheck to do her classroom decorations. So we want to at least you know, support one teacher at every store to be able to give back. So, you know, just an easy example of something happening in real time that's you know, we feel is a win for the community that we can help support.
Definitely, and it is clearly passionate for you personally as well, which I love, because you're putting something into the brand that's passionate for you. Joe, but we've got a few comments coming in, but before we get to those, how are you sort of supporting the development? I mean, it's such a beautiful story, and I really, you know, I love how the brand's developing. We're going to come on to talk about sort of multi-site franchisees in a moment and an expansion. How are you looking to try and support this journey as Chris takes this brand across the US and hopefully across the pond soon, because I'm hungry, so you better get there soon.
Yeah, I think what we've been initially talking about, I mean, I know what we've been initially talking about, I don't have to think about it, is really refining what the timber franchise value proposition. And the way that Ned, Mike, and I look at franchising, everything comes down off of the franchise value proposition and your tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 franchise candidates. And your tier 1 are very simple. Those are your single unit operators that are financially and operationally qualified to do one or two. Then you've got your tier 2, which are your 3 to 5 unit operators, and they may own some other businesses. They may even own, 1 or 2 other franchises. And then your tier 3 are your enterprise franchisees, your multi-unit, multi-brand operators. They might own 80 Taco Bells and 35 Burger Kings and 12 Popeyes. All of those candidates are going to be interested in your franchise value proposition for different reasons. They want to know different aspects of it. And your messaging and your communications have to work with them, and they have to be credible. You actually have to be able to deliver on those aspects of the value proposition that are important to them based on what kind of development that they want to do for you. So I think where Chris and Luke and I have been talking is that Timber's at a crossroads of keep going for the tier 1 franchisees, but how do we communicate to those tier 2, 3 to 5 unit franchisees that can help build out some of these target markets? So the idea, and that's why I asked the question that you're going to ask Chris in a minute, you start thinking about some of these DMAs that he's targeting, and they might need 25 locations in that DMA. Well, to get there with one franchisee, one at a time, that's going to be very, very hard. But to get there with 2 or 3 tier 2 franchisees who are coordinating their development in that market through the leadership of the franchisor and building out those units, now you can get some penetration and market effectiveness for Timber Pizza Company in that DMA.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to bring up your question now, actually, Joe, because you've rather nicely provided me with a segue to that. So it seems the right time. Quickly, before we do that, let's just recognize the fact that we've got Ed Montgomery here. Great to have you with us, Ed. And we have Joanne Lyons as well, also wondering when Timber Pizza is coming to the UK. Well, look, there's 2 people that are keen, so it's good enough. Well, look, let's bring up your question, Joe, when I can find it. There it is. So look, let's have a look at this. What is the development envelope for Timber Pizza Company? What is your target list DMAs for new restaurant development? That's a great question, Joe. Wish I'd thought that. What do you make of this one, Chris?
Yeah, so in terms of, for us, Joe, are you referring to mostly the development envelope like on site or more the territory scope?
I was envisioning this question after looking at the distribution of where your restaurants are now. So what are the current markets that you're targeting, and what are the contiguous markets that you're looking at as well?
Perfect. Yeah, for us, our growth is very focused on the Mid-Atlantic and the Southeast. Charleston is as far south as we are at the moment, and we have a 2-unit development deal as we're actively looking for real estate in the Atlanta, specifically the Alpharetta and Cumming areas there, set to open stores hopefully next year and the following year. So for us, other markets in the Southeast that are very, very appealing to us, and we're actively looking for partners and partnerships include Savannah, Georgia, Greenville, South Carolina, Wilmington, North Carolina. Really those markets, that have that kind of timber feel, that strong hospitality scene, a good mix of strong local culinary, as well as, a little bit of tourism mixed in there. I have, a lot of love for Wilmington, North Carolina. That's where my youngest brother lives. And, having 2 stores in Raleigh and Durham, we want to continue to march into those, metro and kind of minor metro, if you will, markets throughout there. For us in the Mid-Atlantic, being in DC, being in Annapolis, certainly Baltimore, and the greater Baltimore area is an attractive market that we want to penetrate further. And then, Northern Virginia, for us, we have some great partners that are, working on getting their second location open in Northern Virginia, but there's a ton of runway in a market that knows Timber Pizza, which is fantastic. So definitely, continuing to kind of shore up the home front, if you will, in the the DC, Maryland, Virginia, or DMV, as we call it in our neck of the woods, and then continuing to enter new markets in the Southeast, which, we've been successful being in the Raleigh Triangle, being in Charleston, and now, breaking into Georgia via the Atlanta metro. We're liking the way that we're doing it, but certainly, more strong partners in these great markets, all the better for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, if you're in those regions, if you're interested, then reach out to these two lovely gentlemen. But I think we're closing out towards the end of the first section of today's show. It's flown by as always. I think I want to end with a quick glimpse into the future for Timber Pizza. We started in the past, we've certainly delved into the present, and now we're going to have a little look into the future. We're setting our time machine forwards now. This is time for the Franchise Show exclusive, Chris. So what is coming up? Where are you heading? What exciting things are coming up for Timber Pizza?
Certainly. Well, we're extremely proud, in our 10th anniversary of our first restaurant, to be opening our 10th store here in the coming months in Richmond, Virginia. So just a great milestone for us. One of those owner operators that came from Timber Corporate, Kevin Church, has partnered up with some great folks that are longtime friends of mine with strong connections to the Richmond area. So very proud of our store that's in permitting, the lovely piece of the process that we won't spend too much time on because it takes so much time and headache on our end. But we're getting there. Can't wait to open in Richmond soon. And then, next year, an exciting slate ahead with Atlanta, Northern Virginia, other, things in the works, including my group developing in Maryland. So, really for us, our goal is to get 5 or 6 stores open in 2027 and onward and upward from there, start to tick those numbers up and, get to the mid-teens and into the 20s of locations. This will be a 10 by the end of the year with plenty of runway to go.
Exciting, and looking forward to you to coming to the UK. Let me know when you're there. Before we head into the last part of today's show, I'm going to switch things over to Joe to just sort of conclude things up. It's been an amazing story today. Thank you so much, Joe, for introducing us all to Chris and for allowing this story to be told, because I think it's a fantastic one. So I really appreciate you being here, Joe. We have now come to the end of the first part of today's show. Now, this is the part of the show where the camera will go off, and that's not because I've broken things, I assure you. It's because you're not allowed to see me without wearing a hat, although I don't always turn the camera off. Now, look at this beauty. This was made for me by my lovely friend, Paul Murphy, from PJ Murphy & Sons, Bespoke British Hatters. So if you'd like a lovely hat like this one, reach out to my lovely friend Paul. Now, this is the part of the show where we stop talking about founder stories. We stop talking about franchising for a little bit, and we have a little bit of fun. This is the part where not only do I get to ask, no, it won't be Joe today, it's good. But we get to ask you a little bit about yourself, Chris, and you also get your chance to get your own back on me and ask me any question you like. So I'm going to start off with, and it's going to be, I'm going to change up this question eventually when I think of something else, but you haven't been asked it yet. So have you met anyone famous? Have you got a claim to fame, or have you got some sort of interesting hobby that you'd like to tell us about? Some sort of strange story.
Yeah, I've been lucky to meet some famous folks along the way. I think one of the coolest experiences that I've had in this business is several years ago. I was lucky enough to cook pizza for President Obama and his family.
That's good.
We'd known that Michelle attended a wedding that we catered before with one of our mobile trucks, and I was unable to be there that day. I had to cater one of the other weddings that was a rough one and a lot of rain in Northern Virginia with a tough crowd. We'll leave it at that. But getting to meet former President Obama and having him compliment our pizza, and him also saying that they've been ordering Timber Pizza under aliases for years and that we were doing a great job. that was a pretty special moment. So that
There
was
you go. Recommended by the president himself.
Yeah, that was big time. I'm not sure how many presidents have had our product, but I can say that President Obama, that was known, him and Shell are known to have pretty good palates and a strong sense of food and beverage. So
that's got to go on a flyer somewhere, hasn't it?
That was pretty cool.
It.
That was a pretty cool moment.
Love it. Amazing. Well, look, I did promise you that you could get your own back on me today. You've answered questions so beautifully today and told your story so well. So I always think it's fair that you get a chance to ask me anything you like. And genuinely, I don't know what this is going to be, but now is the time. If you wish, you can let me get away with it.
We'll do PJ Murphy and Son a solid and keep it about hats. As someone that has an undisclosed but probably somewhere upwards of 100 something hats within my house at home, of various varieties, hats, visors, brims, what have you. How many hats would you estimate that you have in and around your closets at your humble abode?
It's not going to be as impressive as yours, that's for sure. It's not. I started wearing a hat when I started doing this hat in particular, which wasn't a hugely impressive or particularly expensive hat, but it's got such fond memories. It's the hat that I started doing all of this with. I'm not avoiding your question. The question is 7 hats. Okay. I tend to get a lovely new one made by my friend each year. I've got a fantastic purple and blue one that I wore to a franchise awards dinner made by my friend as well. And I mean, look, I love hats, and I've only got a certain room behind me. Oh, look, you can see that the one on my head normally hangs up there.
Yeah. Oh.
But yeah, look, I think originally, I will admit that when I wore the hat, it was kind of like a masquerade mask, it gave you a character.
Sure.
But I think as time's gone by, I just now love hats. It's kind of become my thing. But look, love that question. Fantastic. We have now come to the end of today's show. So first of all, I would like to thank everyone who's been with us today. Who's been putting in the questions, who's watching this. Maybe you're at the gym, cycling or running away. Or maybe you're listening to this into the distant future, but it's always fantastic to have you with us. So a big thank you to you all. And of course, I would like to thank our fantastic guests, Joe Caruso and Chris Brady. Been a pleasure to have both of you on the Franchise Show today.
Yeah, greatly
Thank you, Harvey.
Thanks, Harvey. Pleasure.
You're absolutely welcome. It just leaves me now to let you know what's going on next week on the Franchise Show. I've written it down somewhere. So next week, Tuesday, the 11th of August, we are going to be talking to Laura Hernandez from the Turquoise Wine Bar, which is a relatively new franchise. Looking forward to hearing all about that. And we're going to be talking about the franchise dream and whatever that is to everybody involved. So please join us next week on the Franchise Show, 5:15 GMT, 12:15 EST. And until next time, my lovely friends, take care.